One of the biggest claims that proponents make is that GE crops have the potential to solve world hunger. The argument usually revolves around biofortification, that is, using genetic engineering to create crops that are more nutritious and could alleviate malnutrition. The most famous example is golden rice, which was biofortified to have a high beta-carotene content, with the intent of addressing vitamin A deficiencies in developing countries. Yet while it's true that biofortification is possible scientifically, in practice there are a few barriers that so far have limited its effects. One of them is that biofortification simply hasn't been prioritized by GE crop developers. As I mentioned in my earlier video about who produces GE crops, development has largely been limited to a few profit-seeking agricultural corporations who are producing commercially oriented crops like HT and IR varieties, not biofortified crops for the hungry. Even in situations where the intent has been to address malnutrition and hunger, there's evidence that developers have failed to consider farmers' needs and have ended up attempting to introduce crops that farmers are actually unlikely to adopt. For example, some have argued that farmers in developing countries often do not perceive biofortification as a top priority, and that in the case of golden rice specifically, this has proven a barrier to adoption. So similarly to the question about economic benefit, GE crops' impacts with regard to hunger are somewhat context-dependent, and their potential for benefit does not always translate into actual benefit in practice.